So you're thinking about moving to the East Bay. Well, I think you're going to be able to relate to this video because I'm not an East Bay native. So my perspective is more of an outsider's perspective. When I first migrated to the US, I landed in the East Bay, Hayward to be exact. I spent my first few years here and then moved to the Peninsula and then moved back. So wherever you're coming from, this video is really going to help you relate and understand what it's like to move to the East Bay coming from another place or another country altogether like me, because I will be talking about the pros, the cons, the good, the bad, the ugly, and also a plus is the fact that I've lived and sold real estate in the Peninsula when I started my real estate career. So I bring a lot of that experience as well. Everything I've learned from, I can say, 2 times of living here in the East Bay. Hey, my name is Mac Rogers. I'm a real estate broker here in the East Bay. If this is your first time on this channel and you want to learn all about what it's like to work, eat, sleep, live, play, the pros and cons of the East Bay, make sure you tap that little subscribe button and click the little bell so you get notified every time I do a new video. We're getting calls, emails, texts every single day from people moving and relocating here in the East Bay, and we absolutely love helping. If you're moving from anywhere and you're moving anywhere here in the East Bay, make sure you give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email, days, nights, weekends. We would love to help you out when moving to the East Bay. So I mentioned in the beginning that I moved to the Peninsula and moved back. Why did we come back here? What was the big draw? It was all about budget and what we can get for that budget. When we were looking for our first home back then, we can only afford certain areas of the Peninsula and none of them were appealing to us. One area that we could afford was Pacifica. I lived in Pacifica for several years. If you know anything about Pacifica, it's freaking foggy 400 days of the year. It could get a bit depressing. It's hard to spend outdoors in a puffer jacket all the time. We considered Pacifica for a quick second. We could have actually afforded to move to other cities like Millbrae, Burlingame, or San Mateo, but that meant buying a townhouse or a condo, which I was dead set against buying. Now let me just talk about this for a minute here. I believe that buying a condo or a townhouse is better than renting. A lot of people get hung up on the type of property that they want to buy and end up not getting anything at all. And this becomes detrimental. In our case, while I really wanted that 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and the front and backyard that I couldn't get or have in our first choice of location, we were willing to move to get that. A lot of buyers are not open to that, and they end up getting severely priced out and in some cases never getting to buy a property. So that would be one of the first big pros that I can share with you. And that is the fact that your money gets you more here in the East Bay, as opposed to the Peninsula, San Francisco, or Silicon Valley. Obviously, if you're coming from out of state or from some other area that's way cheaper than the Bay Area, that's not a big pro for you. The next big pro that I want to share with you is size. The East Bay consists of 2 counties, Alameda and Contra Costa counties. Between these 2 counties, you have such a wide array of properties that you can choose from. There are many newer planned communities as well as older communities that you can pick and choose to live. So there is a home for every budget. As I shoot this video, the cheapest single family home you can buy is for $275,000. That's way below the $380,000 median single family home price for the US. On the other end of the spectrum, the highest property for sale right now is around $16 million. For condos, the lowest price condo that I saw was $175,000, and that was for a 1-bedroom condo. So who says the Bay Area is expensive? So finding a home in your price range shouldn't be an issue. Whether you're looking for that new community, acreage, or a starter home, there's all of those here. Another pro is the weather. By the way, I'm comparing the East Bay to mainly San Francisco, the Peninsula, and Silicon Valley because we get a lot of people moving from over there. Weather over here is definitely nicer and milder than the other side of the bay. It tends to be a little warmer, which is how I like it coming from a tropical country. Now, there's one caveat though. It depends on which part of the East Bay you are moving to. In the summer, places like the Delta or the Tri-Valley could be as high as 10 degrees hotter than some places by the bay, and it gets uncomfortable. So keep that in mind. Again, for me, this is a pro because I like warm weather. So there may be several stretch of days that the weather could be unbearable for some people. Parks or outdoor places. Now, I gotta tell you that we are lucky here in the Bay Area. We have a lot of amazing state parks or parks run by the counties, and the East Bay has a ton of them. The East Eastbay Regional Park District runs the park system, and pretty much every city has a place for you to go or one that is close by. You name the type of activity you want to do and you can find a park that will cater to you. You got archery, boating, biking, camping, you get the idea. Some of my favorite places, Lake Chabot, Del Val Park, and parks by the shoreline. Next pro is the BART station. We here in the Bay Area do not have an extensive type of train or subway system like New York or like the ones they have in Europe. Nowadays, BART trains pretty much runs through the East Bay, giving you access to airports, downtown San Francisco, and other parts of the Bay Area without the need for getting into a car. Diversity or cultural diversity. The East Bay is known for its cultural diversity, which can be seen in the various neighborhoods, restaurants, and events. This diversity creates a vibrant and dynamic atmosphere that can be appreciated by people from all walks of life. Access to education. I'm talking about higher education here. The East Bay is home to several well-respected universities and colleges, including UC Berkeley and Cal State East Bay, and not to mention a number of community colleges that are highly ranked nationally. There are also several private universities like St. Mary's in Moraga. Having these institutions nearby provide residents with access to quality education and opportunities for lifelong learning. In terms of economic opportunities or jobs, the East Bay is home to several major companies like Pixar Animation, Kaiser, Clorox, and also there are other number of Fortune 500 companies that have offices in the East Bay. Companies like Toyota, Gap, Tesla, Workday, just to name a few. These companies provide jobs and economic opportunities for residents in the area. Okay, cons. Okay, I'm going to be shooting myself in the foot with this one. Remember what I said earlier about we moved here because of budget? I didn't mean that it was cheap to live here. In fact, cost of living here is still high by US standards. Heck, even by California standards, it's high. The cost of living in the East Bay is higher than many other parts of the country. Housing costs, while you can certainly get more for your money, is still notoriously high, which can make it difficult for some people or some residents to afford to live in the area. That also includes rentals. The housing crisis in the East Bay has been a growing concern for residents and policymakers alike. According to a report by the California Housing Partnership, the average rent for a two-bedroom apartment in Alameda County, which includes much of the East Bay, is over $2,800 per month. This is far beyond what many families can afford, particularly those with low or moderate incomes. The high cost of housing in the East Bay can be attributed to several factors, including a shortage of available units, high demand from tech workers and other professionals, and limited development due to strict zoning laws and NIMBY, not in my own backyard. These factors have contributed to create the perfect storm, with many residents struggling to afford basic necessities like food, healthcare, and education. The impact of the housing crisis is felt most acutely by low-income families, many of whom are forced to live in overcrowded or inadequate housing conditions. This can have serious consequences for health and well-being, particularly for children who may be exposed to toxins like mold or other hazards. The housing crisis has also sparked a range of community activism and advocacy efforts as residents push for policies and programs to address the issue. Some of these efforts include calls for more affordable housing units, greater protection for renters, and changes to zoning laws to allow for more development. It is a complex and ongoing issue that requires a multifaceted approach. Another con, traffic congestion. The East Bay has some of the worst traffic congestion in the country, particularly during rush hour. This can make commuting a frustrating and time-consuming experience. Traffic congestion in the East Bay is caused by a variety of factors, including population growth, limited public transportation options, and inadequate infrastructure. With more people moving to the area and the continued expansion of the tech industry, the demand for transportation options has increased dramatically. One of the main challenges facing the East Bay is the limited public transportation options. While there are several public transit systems in the area, including, as I have mentioned earlier, BART, AC Transit, and Caltrain, they are often overcrowded and subject to delays delays and service disruption. This can make it difficult for residents to rely on public transportation for their daily commute. In addition to limited public transportation options, the Eastbay also faces challenges with infrastructure. Many of the roads and highways in the area were built decades ago and are not equipped to handle the volume or traffic that exists today. This can lead to bottlenecks, delays, and accidents, all of which can contribute to further congestion. The impact of traffic congestion in the Eastbay is felt in many ways. For commuters, it can mean longer travel times, increased stress, and decreased productivity. For businesses, it can mean higher transportation costs, decreased productivity, and difficulty attracting and retaining employees. For residents, it can mean increased air pollution and noise, and as well as reduced quality of life. Despite these challenges, there are efforts underway to address traffic congestion in the Eastbay. These efforts include expanding public transportation options, investing in infrastructure improvements, and promoting alternative transportation options such as cycling or even walking. Another con, crime. While crime rates in the Eastbay have been declining in recent years, some neighborhoods still have higher crime rates than others. This can make residents feel unsafe and can be a concern for those considering moving to the area. Crime in the Eastbay can take many forms, including violent crimes such as homicide, assault, and robbery, as well as property crimes like burglary and theft. One of the factors contributing to crime in the Eastbay is economic inequality. Many neighborhoods in the region experience high poverty rates and lack of access to quality education, healthcare, and other resources. This can lead to a sense of hopelessness and depression or desperation, which can fuel criminal behavior. Another factor contributing to crime in the Eastbay is the prevalence of gangs and drug trafficking. These activities often involve violence and can be difficult for law enforcement to combat. Additionally, the Eastbay's proximity to major ports and transportation hubs make it an attractive location for drug trafficking operations. Despite these challenges, there are many efforts underway to address crime in the Eastbay. Law enforcement agencies are working to increase patrols in high crime areas and develop community-based policing programs that build trust between police officers and residents. Community organizations and activists are also working with local governments to find solutions. It is important to note that crime rates in the Eastbay vary widely by neighborhood and community. While some areas experience high crime rates, others have lower crime rates and are considered relatively safe. Another con, homelessness. Like many urban areas in California, the Eastbay has a significant homeless population. This can be a visible and sometimes distressing issue for residents, and it can also contribute to safety concerns and other problems. The region has seen a dramatic increase in homelessness in recent years, with many individuals and families living on the streets or in temporary shelters. There are many factors contributing to homelessness in the Eastbay. One of the primary factors is the lack of affordable housing in the region. Housing costs in the Eastbay have increased significantly in recent years, while wages have not kept in pace. This has made it difficult for many individuals and families to find affordable housing, leading to homelessness. Another contributing factor is the lack of access to healthcare and mental health services. Many individuals experiencing homelessness in the Eastbay suffer from chronic health conditions or mental illness and may not have access to the care they need to manage their conditions. This can make it difficult for them to maintain stable housing or employment. Additionally, many individuals experiencing homelessness in the Eastbay have experienced trauma or abuse and may struggle with addiction or other challenges. These issues can make it difficult for them to find stable housing or again maintain employment. Another con are toll road or bridge tolls. Tolls are a common feature of transportation infrastructure here in the Eastbay. The region has several toll bridges and express lanes that require drivers to pay a fee in order to use them. One of the most well-known toll bridges in the Eastbay, the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge, which connects Oakland and San Francisco. We also have the San Mateo Bridge that connects Hayward and Foster City. There's also Dumbarton Bridge that connects Newark to Menlo Park. Other bridges are the Richmond-San Rafael Bridge, Benicia Bridge, Carquinez, and Antioch Bridges. Keep that in mind when you move here because you are bound to cross a couple of bridges from time to time. And as of this video, as I shoot this video, the cost to cross the bridge is $7 and most likely will just keep on increasing. In addition to toll bridges, the Eastbay has express lanes that allow drivers to bypass traffic by paying a toll. Drivers need to use an electronic transponder to pay the toll and access the express lane. Depending on traffic, toll can get upwards of $15 for just the privilege of going a couple of miles. While tolls can be a source of revenue for transportation infrastructure, they can also be a source of controversy. Some drivers feel that tolls are unfair and place an undue burden on low-income residents. Others argue that tolls are necessary to fund transportation infrastructure and reduce congestion. Another con for the Eastbay is sales tax. Contra Costa and Alameda counties have one of the highest sales tax in California. Both are at 10.75%. Compare that with San Francisco, San Mateo, or Santa Clara counties that are all under 10%. Again, another thing to keep in mind. Here's another con that just happened in recent years. If you live or buy by the hills where it might be deemed a fire danger, getting a fire insurance could be hard and expensive. In recent years, some insurance companies have stopped providing fire insurance coverage in high-risk areas, citing increased costs and potential losses. This has created challenges for homeowners in the Eastbay, who may struggle to find affordable fire insurance coverage. To address this issue, you might need to go through the California Fair Plan to get an insurance. To wrap this up, when I first moved here, most of my friends were in the Peninsula, and I hang out a lot over there. When they asked me where I live, people were kind of taken aback or surprised that I live across the bridge. It was as if it wasn't in the Bay Area anymore. I think there's a certain stigma when you talk to people that is on the other side of the bridges that has no clue of what the Eastbay is. For the most part, that has kind of disappeared. It used to be when you told people you lived here, they think it's a whole different country altogether. But now, with the amount of people and congestion and demand for housing in the Bay Area, the Eastbay has been seen as a good alternative to other parts of the Bay Area rather just than a far off place across the bridge. If you're thinking of relocating here in the Eastbay, let us know so we can help you identify or narrow down areas that might be suitable for you.